Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us in our second year of the NeoCon Talks series. These talks are 20-minute conversations on a range of topics, and welcome to day 2. We'd like to thank our sponsors Formica, 9 to 5 Seating, Dauphine, Garden on the Wall, and Via Seating. Also, we have Beatrix Coffee and Pastries in the back, so if you guys need to refuel, you can do that. And in between the talks, we'll be having some workplace trivia with prizes, so you guys can get some free coffee. And next up in the talk series is why include OTs in your inclusive design team with Francisco Lasta. Welcome, Francisco.
Test. All right. Thank you, everyone, for being here. This is a great place to really talk about OT because OT is such a different field from design. So I'm really glad that I have this platform to talk more about what OT is and the value of OT in inclusive design or in design in general. So I'm going to start this talk about this story of this amazing woman. Her name is Barbara Beskind. This happened 11 years ago. So Barbara is an 89-year-old woman with macular degeneration, and she is excited to start her new job as a conceptual designer, which is impressive because in Silicon Valley, it's really challenging to find a job because they're often criticized for being ageist or only hiring younger workers. But Barbara, she's very passionate about design, and her new employer actually sees value in having a wide range of perspectives so that they can design better products for their clients. Her new employer is the globally renowned design and consulting firm IDEO. And if you're familiar with IDEO, they specialize in helping organizations innovate and solve complex problems. One of their first clients is Steve Jobs because they designed the first mouse for Apple and also the first Macintosh computer. But IDEO is also known for design thinking, which is an innovative, human-centered process for creative problem solving. This process could involve having a diverse group of people from very different backgrounds, gathering them in one room, and having them be good at building on each other's ideas. So Barbara's lived experience as an older adult and as a person with disability is actually one of the things that IDEO needed during that time. Especially, they were also designing products for older adults. But there's one more thing about Barbara that made her uniquely qualified to be in her role as a conceptual designer in a firm known for design thinking. 3 decades before she joined IDEO, this is her previous career, she practiced in occupational therapy, and she was an occupational therapist for 44 years. That's why the picture that I'm using here looks very vintage, and I didn't know that occupational therapists and nurses looks kind of the same before. But that gave her a unique perspective when it comes to solving problems and looking at design, thinking about solutions, because she has this deep understanding of the needs and challenges of people with varying levels of disabilities. And that's the kind of perspective that a design team needs to have if they want to design products with a human-centered approach. Because most commercial product design, they tend to ignore the needs of people with disabilities, the marginalized, or the culturally underrepresented. And that's why it results in products that are inaccessible and exclusionary. But if you look around, more and more businesses are starting to recognize that inclusive design is actually a business strategy to broaden their customer base. But you can't just use inclusive design as a buzzword because people would know it, right? So to be able to really genuinely design with inclusivity in mind, you need to let the wide needs of the diverse population inform your design process. And that's how you can create more products that are really inclusive as opposed to just like putting certain features and you would call it inclusive. So having an occupational therapist, inviting them to your table could steer you in that direction. And occupational therapists could be your secret sauce in designing more inclusive products, more inclusive spaces, and more inclusive experiences. And I'm using the word secret sauce here because not a lot of people or designers know what OT is. Like, what is occupational therapy? And what does it have to do with design? Because even if our profession has existed for over a century, I still get a lot of questions, what is OT? Each time people would ask me what I do for a living. And it kind of reminds me, and if people will have an idea what OT is, it depends on the experience that they had with an OT. Maybe they worked with an OT before, or a family member, or a friend, or a coworker worked with an OT before. So they have different perspectives because especially you can find OTs in different settings doing seemingly different things. And it reminds me of the ancient Indian parable of the blind man and the elephant, where their limited perspectives led to erroneous assumption of what an elephant is. Like, an elephant is more than just their legs, the tail, the trunk, the tusk, or the ear. And same with OT. People would assume that, oh, OTs only work in skilled nursing facilities, they work with older adults, or they help patients go to the bathroom, teach them how to take a bath or take a shower or put on their clothes, or they're like PTs, but not as important as PTs, but don't tell that to an OT, okay? Never tell that to an OT. Or they only work with kids, working on their fine motor skills, their sensory processing challenges, or behavioral regulations, so you can find them in a school setting. Or because of the word occupation in occupational therapy, it's so easy to assume that we only work with people on job-related tasks or vocational goals, because usually occupation is associated with the word job, right? So that's the common assumption. But the word occupation in occupational therapy is more deeply connected to its root word, occupy, or from the Latin word occupo, meaning to grasp, to seize, to take over. Your job as a designer could occupy your time, your energy, your attention, your whole being, right? That's your job. I mean, that's also an occupation. But so is taking care of your kids, visiting your parents, doing the laundry, walking the dog, doing the dishes, going to the bathroom, volunteering, eating, putting your pants on, partying, attending the conference, and sleeping is also an occupation. It occupies your life. Occupation is what life is made of. And that's why it's important to look at it, right? So from the moment you started your day today, even before you got here at the Mart, you were already engaged in a series of occupations. And you will continue to do so, even if you already are at home and resting and sleeping. And I hope everybody got enough sleep, because it's this time of the day when you might feel a little drowsy. Oops, something happened there. All right. So occupations, you do that every day, and you just don't know it. They're very, very ordinary until something happens that would make it extraordinary because you could no longer do them. And that's why there are professionals like myself and other OTs who are in this room, because we believe, and it's backed up by research, we're not just believing it, we know that occupations could be used as transformative tools for well-being. One occupation, cooking, right? People do it, some people don't. But so how do we how do we make use of these occupations, and what does it have to do with designing things? That's what's going to come next, right? We break it down into very, very small components of the task. So when you're cooking, what are the necessary steps? You plan the meal, you gather the necessary ingredients, all the way to plating and serving the meal. So we break it down into the smallest components because we really want to know what that occupation is so that we can make it a transformative tool for people's well-being. And then we would know that occupations require certain skills. It needs your cognition, your perception, your motivation, your balance. It's going to be hard to cook if you're having problems with your balance or standing for a long period of time. You need endurance for that, or being able to reach for things. You need range of motion. You need strength to be able to lift the pots and pans up. And you need coordination to hold the ladle or whatever it is that you're using. And we tap into our deep understanding of anatomy, kinesiology, biomechanics, psychology, human development, and medical and surgical conditions. That's how we understand what those factors are when you are performing those activities that are meaningful for you, those occupations that you do every day. That's how we know them very intimately, because we dissect them, we analyze them. We would be able to use them in therapy so that they can transform and having people achieve their well-being through occupations. But here comes design. When you do your occupations, it doesn't happen in a vacuum. You always do it in a certain environment, whether it's in a bedroom, in an office, in a park, or in a place like this. Like right now, this is your occupation. This is my occupation right now. And the environment that we're in, the chairs, this is the environment that we're in. So NeoCon talks cannot just exist without this place. And as occupational therapists, we know that that has a big influence on the way we perform certain things. And that's why we analyze the environment. And that's why we analyze design. Each feature of the environment we would look at, whether it's the weight, the color of the object, the glare of the light, the complexity of the tool that you're using. What does this particular furniture mean for you? How safe it is? How responsive the tool or the technology that you're using? What the texture is? All of these elements we look at because we know that it could facilitate or hinder people's ability to perform those valued activities that they want to be able to do. And so when you're an occupational therapist, it's really difficult to take off your lens as an OT. When I visit the NeoCon showrooms, it always is automatic for me to look at those features that I would think like, oh, that's not going to be good for a person with like small hands or bigger build, or this is going to be very rough for a fabric for a chair, or not as comfortable for sleeping. It's going to affect the way you sleep. And same with the cooking. We're in the kitchen. Will a person with a wheelchair still be able to do the occupation of cooking if that person is given an environment that is made for a person without a disability? Or what about kids? Would kids be comfortable being in the kitchen? Would they be able to access what they want to access? Would they be able to be safe while in the kitchen? Or if you're an older person with visual challenges, would you be able to see the contrast between the cooking utensils and the kitchen countertop? Is there enough light for you to be able to do the cooking? Again, we look at these design features in the environment from the lens of, is it going to facilitate or limit me from doing the things that I want to do? Here at the Mart, it's a very big place. Not a lot of wayfinding, that's very helpful. So I got lost several times. And again, that's one of the environmental features that limited me from going to the spot where I needed to go to. So occupational therapists, we are the only profession that has this really, really deep understanding of the relationship between the person, the task, and the environment. We understand them so fully because we know that one affects the other. And that's why we have a role in design, and we have a role in inclusive design. But if that's the case, why is it that there are not a lot of OTs and designers working together? That's the question. It's because we have been practicing in different bubbles. We're practicing in silos, so we really don't know each other. We don't know the same language, right? And we don't know how to collaborate. And it makes it difficult for designers and OTs to work together because of that. In addition to the misconceptions about OT or the stereotype about OT. Like, why are you in a design world? Like, you should be in the clinical setting because you're a healthcare professional. We are a healthcare professional, and our main goal is the person's well-being. And design needs to promote that. So what you can do if you're a designer listening right now is really start engaging with an occupational therapist. It could be as simple as having a conversation about the product that you have or the things that you're designing, or even inviting OT students. Because again, they would give you a different perspective, which will be so refreshing as opposed to you're only just working with fellow designers. So if designers and occupational therapists can work together, our world would be much more inclusive. Our world would be a much better place to live. Thank you.
Thank you, Francisco. So we're going to have a recording of Francisco's talk as well as all of the other conversations from yesterday and today. You guys can sign up for a free subscription to workdesign.com on our website, and that way you'll get noticed and a notification of when all the videos are live. So next up is at 2:30, The Benefits of Failing with Andrea Alonis and Giovanna Abu Ali with Jacobs. See you guys in 10 minutes.